Welcome into the AlwaysMoto YouTube channel, brought to you by Lead Moto Australia and TechnicMotorsport.com. As always, I'm your host here, David Hogan, the Australian physiotherapist that knows the injuries and fitness needs of our sport of motocross and supercross. And we're bringing you an update from the emergency department for this weekend's SuperMotocross Playoff Round 1 at Charlotte. We're going to go through all the injury updates. There's plenty of news ahead of this weekend's race. Amazing how many riders have made returns for this race here at the end, this late point of the season, considering that in 2023, plenty of these riders would not have made this effort prior to that year. They would have sat out much longer than they currently do. So let's get to these updates, starting with some updates that aren't necessarily returns, aren't necessarily outs. But from Ironman, Dylan Ferrandis went down in that first turn crash in Moto 1 of the 450s. He had a tweaked neck and thumb that kept him out of the Moto 2 on that day, and he didn't obviously return for Moto 1 either. He DNF'd straight away from that crash. But Dylan is back ready to go for this weekend in Charlotte. Colt Nichols, the number 45 of that HEP Suzuki, had a rough go since he started out with those guys. That crash that he had at Budds Creek knocked him around a fair bit. He did ride Ironman in terms of Moto 1, but he pulled out of Moto 2, suffering some symptoms that were ongoing from that Budds Creek crash. We believe that he is all A-OK now and will be racing this weekend in Charlotte as well. So again, like we said, wasn't really in. Just some updates from their recovery paths from incidents that they've had over the last few weeks. Some riders that are out for SuperMotocross. Now, obviously, there was news today about Joey Savacci parting ways with Triumph. Now, he was basically the only rider that is actually currently fit to do the SuperMotocross World Playoff, but is not going to be actually participating because of other reasons with his split there with Triumph. And you can find more of that information out there. We won't cover that here in the emergency department. So out from Ironman, Dylan Swartz, the number 40 on the Barrick Suzuki. He's been riding through a bit of a rough wrist injury. He's been on his way back from a wrist fracture that happened earlier in the year. He's been a part of the motocross series, but he's been having ongoing issues as he's been going along. He actually had another procedure to do a bit of a removal cleanup, but he managed to get an infection around the time of Washougal from that, and he's been battling on since then. So he's actually not going to be sitting out of SuperMotocross because of that scenario there with his wrist, so that ideally he can be 100% by the time he gets back for SuperMotocross in 2025. Now, it would be good to see a fully fit Dylan Swartz. He's had a rough go in recent times, but he's always had plenty of speed, and I feel like he's capable of a lot more. So it'll be interesting to see if he can be fit come 2025 Supercross. Another one who was out, Daxton Bennick, the number 59 on that Star Racing Yamaha. The team and him announced that he's been having some ongoing health issues. You saw him there. He qualified 22nd at Ironman, but didn't race the motos. He sat out. His health is obviously not good enough to be participating at that level. So they've made the step to get him recovered by giving him some resting time. So no Daxton Bennick in SuperMotocross this year. Now, the riders returning for SuperMotocross. Now, in past years, we mentioned this at the top of the show, plenty of riders prior to 2023 would not have made the effort to return this late in the season. They would have sat out and just got rested up, get their fitness back into order, ready for season 2025 and Supercross starting. But now, because of this high money availability in these playoffs, they are making their efforts to get back sooner, which is great for us fans. So, off the top of the list here in the 450 class, returning for SuperMotocross at Charlotte, Jet Lawrence is going to make his return from that thumb injury. It has been the year of the thumb and the UCL, the ulnar collateral ligament injuries in Supercross. Cooper Webb, who you'll hear about here shortly, Eli Tomic also having that injury this year. Jet's making his way back. Now, he has been back on the bike for around 3 weeks now. So how much time is that? Well, I've heard on other media sources them talking about the fact that he won't be ready. I'm going to be highly surprised if he is, in fact, not ready, because I believe that he is going to be just fine come round 1 here. Now, remember, he came into this series last year in 3rd place in the standings. He comes in 6th place this year. Now, if he does anything better than 8th place at Charlotte, which is what he got last year, he's already in a better position. So even a podium position for Jet Lawrence, which is not out of the realms. We saw him competing with a shoulder injury early in motocross and still winning overall. So for Jet Lawrence, I feel like he's going to surprise some people this weekend with how prepared he actually is. Cooper Webb, the number 2 on the Star Racing Yamaha. He got that bit of a stop-start return there. He'd returned at Unadilla from his thumb injury in Supercross. Had a re-aggravation there at Unadilla. Sat out the last 2 rounds at Budds Creek and Ironman. But he has been riding. He is back fully healthy again. Ideally, just some scar tissue that was torn in that re-aggravation at Unadilla. He should be ready to go 100% for Charlotte, and he will be there on the line. So let's see how Cooper Webb does in Charlotte. Now, Justin Barsha, the number 51 on the gas. He's had a bit of a rough go. He's had some dual knee injuries, so both knees have been injured during the motocross season, and he was riding through that in the early couple of rounds, but after Southwick, he decided to sit out. His initial plans were to give himself 6 or so weeks there in that gap there that happens between a few of the rounds, and then obviously with the Amateur Nationals at Loretta Lynn's to boost that time out, and he was hoping to be back for Unadilla. That didn't end up working out. He needed further recovery time. The knees were not ready. He hadn't returned to the bike, even by that point at Unadilla. So he is now sitting there only with about 2 weeks of riding time on the actual bike. His knees are supposedly recovered, so we'll see how that goes for him. There might still be some other things he has to do post-season to be ready for Supercross, but he is going to be on track for Charlotte. In the 250 class, we've got a couple of riders here. Now, Joe Shimoda, the number 30 on the HRC Honda, he broke his collarbone at Unadilla late in that moto there, chasing down Levi Kitchen. He is returning to riding, but he's unfortunately had very limited prep. He's basically one of the tightest windows here to recover. He's had surgery to plate that. Now, as you would have seen earlier in the year, if your name's Cody Schock, he can make that return from a collarbone surgery within a week. But that's not everybody's case. You can return that quickly. You've got to be able to manage the pain, but you do risk obviously having another crash and then breaking that plate out of the freshly repaired areas of the collarbone. So it's a risk. But for Joe, it's about 4 weeks that he's going to be repaired. So he's going to be right at that window where things are starting to not hurt and to become actually solid bone. So he will be ready to go. How ready he will be fitness-wise, race fitness-wise at round 1, it's anybody's guess. I dare say he'll be okay, but look for Joe to improve in round 2 and round 3 as his fitness comes back. Nate Thrasher, the number 57 on the Star Racing Yamaha, has been out of action since Hangtown in the Nationals. The week before Hangtown, he actually had a practice crash and unknowingly to him, broke his collarbone but bent the plate that was previously inserted from a previous fractured collarbone. These guys obviously have these injuries all the time, and they can then aggravate and damage the repairs that they've had done. So he rode Hangtown with a bent plate, realized later on, had surgery to remove the plate, repair the collarbone, and start the process over. He has been back riding for a few weeks, wasn't quite ready to make his return in outdoors, but he's ready for Charlotte. So not sure how good of a prep he's had, how good his fitness is going to be, how good his race position is going to be, but he'll be up there and somewhat competitive. We'll see how Nate Thrasher goes here at round 1 at Charlotte. Cameron McAdoo, number 63 on the Pro Circuit Kawasaki, he's the surprise for me. I didn't think he was going to be back this season after those injuries he had at the end of Supercross that left his run for the championship there a bit short. Then he had an injury right before, as he was trying to prepare for outdoors. Right before the start of outdoors, he injured his shoulder, had to undergo surgery, but he's made that recovery. He's been back on the bike for a few weeks, doing lots of laps at Glen Helen and stuff, as we get reports from and images from on his socials and whatnot. How prepared he is for racing, it's anybody's guess. I had a sneaky suspicion that he was going to return at Ironman because he was on the entry list. That didn't come to fruition. But he is here for Charlotte. So he could be a sneaky podium guy here in SuperMotocross as this goes on, depending on how prepared he is. I dare say he wouldn't be making a return if he wasn't. And another one on the list here, Jet Reynolds, the number 99 on the Club MX Yamaha, had a collarbone fracture right before the last 3 rounds of motocross there for Unadilla, Budds Creek Ironman. He had it surgically repaired as well. He's a few weeks ahead of Joe Shimoda, so he'll be in a similar boat, but just a little bit better prepared. So he'll be making his return as well for Charlotte. And Casey Cochran, the number 166 on the Rockstar Husqvarna, had an arm injury in Budds Creek, had what we believe some lacerations to the arm. He had to sit out Ironman because of that, just to let those wounds heal. That has now occurred, and he will be ready to go for Charlotte as well. But that's it from our updates here in the AlwaysMoto YouTube channel, here in the emergency department. Let's see what these SuperMotocross playoffs bring in 2024. Let me know your thoughts about how these riders are coming back now at the end of the seasons. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Let us know in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you see our updates throughout these SuperMotocross playoffs. And if you can, check out our merch. We've got these shirts, the AlwaysMoto t-shirts are available. You just got to email us at info@alwaysmoto.com and put t-shirt order in the subject line, and we'll sort out payments and all that sort of stuff, and we'll get you a nice, sexy looking t-shirt. And support the show here and keep this thing going. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.